everybody. It is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question that we got in, and that was really to get in depth into how to rebuild your life, how to reinvent yourself, how to almost survive through an identity crisis, how to come to a better state of being after being in a relationship with an emotionally manipulative individual, an emotionally abusive individual, someone at the hands of the relationship you feel might be even malignant, narcissistic, very destructive, like a narcissistic, sociopathic, or psychopathic individual, someone who has, by virtue of their personality, the neural network that they have, which is wired and sort of directed in opposing to much of humanity or good ethical qualities. They are pathologically self-absorbed to the point where they also lack empathy. They don't have the ability to connect with other people's feelings, needs, wishes, or desires. There's just a real disconnect there. There's a dissociation. Yet unbeknownst to you, you had attracted this person into your life. Perhaps you had over-idealized them or over-attached to them. In other words, because based in the beginning by a subconscious feeling that you were not good enough, perhaps you had low self-esteem, you had a void in your life, you were lonely, you were just kind of isolated, and here you felt this person was kind of like a lifeline to you. You had perhaps then felt that this person was supportive or charming or intelligent, swept you off of your feet. Yet, unbeknownst to you, this person was really sort of playing you or stringing you along, so to speak. This person was not who you thought they were. They had presented a sort of a facade, a mask in the relationship, and you had exposed them, or are beginning to expose them now, to see that there is something else underneath the surface. They are not authentic. They're not real. They're not genuine. They're not giving you the full story. They're not giving you a truth. There's not a sort of a foundation of truth, love, and integrity and compassion in the relationship. There is the presence of a lot of lying or false talk. This person could be just telling you what you want to hear. The psychopath oftentimes will manipulate by that. They are able to, by virtue of their neural network and the way that their brain is constructed, they have a high sensitivity to the neurochemical, the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is basically meaning that they are running on they have a high reward basis. Basically, they're energized by the need to overpower or take risk that will violate others. So in essence, they get a rise, they get pleasure by sort of taking advantage of others, lying to others, leading double and triple lives. In other words, telling one person one thing and telling another person another, and they tend to live their lives very, very deeply by this sort of pathology. So they just tend to move on from one person to another with whom they can overpower. And oftentimes people are very devastated by this experience. They will go through the experience of being gaslighted, which means they'll have a lot of cognitive dissonance. They don't have a sense of what is real anymore or what is right, or really kind of their sort world has been turned upside down. They're feeling as if, they don't know who they are. They have a sense of terror or feeling very, very betrayed. That this person, not only are their hopes bashed, their dreams bashed, but they have a very frail sense of self. After being in a relationship with this person, they had put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. So really it's, how do you rebuild your life? How do you get to a better sense of who you are, what you want? How do you direct your emotions positively without living by the struggle and the hormones of stress and this sort of frail sense of I am, or a frail sense of integrity about really kind of your personality? It's kind of like, how do you rebuild after you've been living in a shambles or a rubble after this very destructive relationship? And as we discussed in previous videos, you need to realize that this person is separate, distinct, and outside of you. And they will not continue to hurt you if you put your foot down and if you basically say, I'm not going to allow this to trouble me anymore. It's as much as verbalizing and then feeling this energetically within yourself and being able to really put the brakes on. So you need to find those emotional brakes just to put a halt to it, to say, okay, enough is enough. That person, I'm now going to see that they were causing a lot of this trouble. They have tainted my life and they are now outside of me, and I'm now stopping that negative influence. So it's literally putting on the emotional brakes, seeing it for outside of you, and then begin to come to a new state of perspective on life and what you're going to allow yourself to feel, and not being defined by this person who you had hitherto given your power over to this person. And when I say give your power over to this person, I mean essentially that. Having them define you. In other words, evaluate you. Your sense of I am was in their hands rather than your hands. So begin to take your power back. Rather than allowing them to evaluate you, define you, and really define your feelings and distract your feelings, begin to understand that that is just a distraction. It is just you've been living by the hormones of stress and fear, being over-obligated to this person. We call this being conditioned or programmed to feel or react in this way. You have control over your reactions, and it is this control which you need to now take back. And this very much comes into a state of permission. And if this is new, this is familiar, you might say, how do I do this? So these might be, you might have never experienced personal security or personal power. You might have never experienced this sort of serenity because you have been living around chronic stress, chronic control by others. You might have experienced a real sense of social anxiety that, because you have not experienced this energetically before, this might be your memorized feeling. So basically, based on some of these experiences, you have then memorized emotionally and energetically these fears, these sort of lack of self-belief. So this might always, you might always have this fear, this anxiety, this trepidation, and you don't know how to kind of get within yourself in a solid foundational basis, which is in congruency with really sort of all of your energy, your body, mind, spirit, your thoughts, your cognitions, your feelings, kind of all rolling into one in a positive foundation. So oftentimes we find people have kind of a broken foundation because they're so used to answering to another versus being accountable to themselves and saying, it's time for me now to be accountable to myself. It is time for me now to be accountable to myself and be responsible for my emotions, my focus, my time, my attention, my behaviors. I am now defining these for myself, and I am now living life on these terms, and it is okay. I'm giving myself permission to do this. And even though this is new, this might be unfamiliar, I might find that I want to live my life in a different manner with which this person had hitherto tried to control me. So this person might have conditioned me to be their supply. They might have conditioned me to feel bad. They might have conditioned me based on all of our interactions to feel less than. That is not correct. That is not the truth. I define me. I define my perspective and my life, my lifestyle, and how I want to live my life. So it's almost as if, it's like the parent who wants their child to be a doctor, yet that child is a true dancer. They have all the inclination, the mechanics, the kinesthetic knowledge, the kinesthetic intelligence to be a certain way, yet that person is trying to put a mold on them, which does not work. It's not who they are. The true person is not being validated, is not being embraced, is not being loved. So it's learning to identify when that erroneous mold has been placed on you and then taking it off and saying, okay, for some period of time, this person had put a mold on me to try to shape me, my behavior, my life, to be in a certain manner, which is, perhaps they wanted me to be richer than I needed to be unhappy when I want to be happy, to, dress a certain way, to eat a certain way, to develop my profession a certain way, to spend my routine, my day in a certain way, to love people in a certain way. So it can permeate all layers and fibers of your being when you say, you know what, I live unconditionally. So in other words, I love unconditionally. I love people from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all nationalities, all religions. I don't have that trepidation yet. I can evaluate now when someone is loving or unkind to me, and I can separate people now based on that. And I can now learn to keep myself and protected away from those people who are destructive. I can now begin to give myself the vision, the perspective, the eyesight to now see and understand that there are negative, self-absorbed people who, based on their needs, are trying to, destroy, sabotage, scapegoat me. So I'm now separating those people. That is now how I'm perceiving life. Not, and I'm now separating myself from those people who seek to harm me, destroy me, sabotage me, and scapegoat. And so it is based on that. So it's a growth, it's an evolution, it's a growing of perspective, it's a growing of your personality and your identity, now based on a core of truth versus one of people pleasing, one of trying to prevent the outbursts of another in sacrificing of oneself to that. So it's a true embracing of one's personhood, one's being, one's personality, one's perspective, their I am, and your behaviors, and living without shame, living without that mold on you, discarding the negative mold for now a new design of life, a new blueprint, a new template, which comes from within, and then you design. It's like taking, pen in hand and now defining your life and what you truly want, how you truly want to live. Perhaps it's a simple life. Perhaps, you want to dress differently than this individual had molded you. You want to eat differently. You want to earn money differently. You want to experience life differently. You want to schedule your life differently. You want to do these things, but now it's coming from a core of belief, faith, and then furthermore, your higher consciousness is now what is directing you. So you evaluate and give yourself permission. Yes, I do want to invest my time here. Yes, I do want to invest my money here. Yes, I do want to make choices here. And I'm now directing and making choices for my life moving forward versus being constantly held back and blocked by the trepidation and fear that this person had instilled. I'm no longer making decisions and choices from that fear-based reality. I'm now making choices, decisions, and behaviors and thoughts and feelings and belief from the positive vibration, the positive energy, the positive I am, the trust in self, the positive evaluation of self. And I'm now operating by better judgment now that I'm doing that. So my choices are better, my eating is better, my investment of time is better, my house is better. Everything that I'm doing is now emanating from that. And it's now under that sort of positive cycle versus the negative cycle. And I think that's a very beginning stage, it's very much based on a permission-based, a feeling-based, an emotion-based, and an I am base, which is more positive, which is oftentimes very new and unfamiliar. It might sound very simple, but it's very profound. And once you can begin to separate that, your positive kindness, and then learning furthermore to protect it, and separate yourself from those individuals with whom would seek to harm you through the intangible ways of emotional manipulation, violation, negative self-evaluation, and fear and control over you. Once you begin to really refine and clarify and sharpen your vision there, you'll really begin to own your perspective, which will really serve you. And once you really begin to do this, it's like riding a bike. Once you do it, you will never forget. Your body will kind of memorize and store that experience and that understanding, and you'll really be able to hold yourself in self-honor, respect, and then reverence really for much of the higher source energy, the higher intelligence which directs the universe, And that is what you're responsible and accountable to, not a harmful individual who is seeking to control you by fear, harm, and controlling for their needs versus your self-responsibility to a higher calling or a higher purpose, that which is really your destiny and that which makes you happy and fulfilled. It's a much different experience. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.